What a number of bond robberies there have been lately, I observed one morning laying aside the newspaper. Poirot, let us forget the science of detection and take to crime instead. You are on the, how you say it, get-rich-quick tech, mon ami? Well, look at this last coup, the $1 million worth of Liberty bonds which the London and Scottish Bank were sending to New York and which disappeared in such a remarkable manner on board the Olympia. If it were not for the mal de mer and the difficulty of practicing the so excellent method of l'aveugle for a longer time than the few hours of crossing the Channel, I should delight to voyage myself on one of these big liners, murmured Poirot dreamily. Yes, indeed, I said enthusiastically. Some of them must be perfect palaces. The swimming baths, the lounges, the restaurant, the palm courts. Really, it must be hard to believe that one is on the sea. Me, I always know when I am on the sea, said Poirot sadly, and all those bagatelles that you enumerate, they say nothing to me. But, my friend, consider for a moment the geniuses that travel as it were incognito. On board those floating palaces, as you so justly call them, one would meet the elite, the haute noblesse of the criminal world. I laughed. So that's the way your enthusiasm runs. You would like to cross swords with the man who sneaked the Liberty bonds? The landlady interrupted us. A young lady wants to see you, Mr. Poirot. Here's her card. The card bore the inscription, Miss Esme Farquhar, and Poirot, after diving under the table to retrieve a stray crumb and putting it carefully in the waste-paper basket, nodded to the landlady to admit her. In another minute, one of the most charming girls I have ever seen was ushered into the room. She was perhaps about 25, with big brown eyes and a perfect figure. She was well dressed and perfectly composed in manner. Sit down, I beg of you, mademoiselle. This is my friend, Captain Hastings, who aids me in my little problems. I am afraid it is a big problem I have brought to you today, Monsieur Poirot, said the girl, giving me a pleasant bow as she seated herself. I dare say you have read about it in the papers. I am referring to the theft of Liberty bonds on the Olympia. Some astonishment must have shown itself on Poirot's face, for she continued quickly, You are doubtless asking yourself what I have to do with a grave institution like the London and Scottish Bank. In one sense, nothing. In another sense, everything. You see, Monsieur Poirot, I am engaged to Mr. Philip Ridgway. Aha! And Mr. Philip Ridgway was in charge of the bonds when they were stolen. Of course, no actual blame can attach to him. It was not his fault in any way. Nevertheless, he is half distraught over the matter, and his uncle, I know, insists that he must carelessly have mentioned having them in his possession. It is a terrible setback in his career. Who is his uncle? Mr. Vavasour, joint general manager of the London and Scottish Bank. Suppose, Miss Farquhar, that you recount to me the whole story. Very well. As you know, the bank wished to extend their credits in America, and for this purpose decided to send over $1 million in Liberty bonds. Mr. Vavasour selected his nephew, who had occupied a position of trust in the bank for many years, and who was conversant with all the details of the bank's dealings in New York, to make the trip. The Olympia sailed from Liverpool on the 23rd, and the bonds were handed over to Philip on the morning of that day by Mr. Vavasour and Mr. Shaw, the two joint general managers of the London and Scottish Bank. They were counted, enclosed in a package and sealed in his presence, and he then locked the package at once in his portmanteau. A portmanteau with an ordinary lock? No, Mr. Shaw insisted on a special lock being fitted to it by Hubs. Philip, as I say, placed the package at the bottom of the trunk. It was stolen just a few hours before reaching New York. A rigorous search of the whole ship was made, but without result. The bonds seem literally to have vanished into thin air. Poirot made a grimace. But they did not vanish absolutely, since I gather that they were sold in small parcels within half an hour of the docking of the Olympia. Well, undoubtedly the next thing for me to do is to see Mr. Ridgway. I was about to suggest that you should lunch with me at the Cheshire Cheese. Philip will be there. He is meeting me, but does not know yet that I have been consulting you on his behalf. We agreed to this suggestion readily enough and drove there in a taxi. Mr. Philip Ridgway was there before us and looked somewhat surprised to see his fiancée arriving with two complete strangers. He was a nice-looking young fellow, tall and spruce, with a touch of greying hair at the temples, though he could not have been much over 30. Miss Farquhar went up to him and laid her hand on his arm. "You must forgive my acting without consulting you, Philip," she said. "Let me introduce you to Monsieur Hercule Poirot, of whom you must often have heard, and his friend, Captain Hastings." Ridgway looked very astonished. "Of course I have heard of you, Monsieur Poirot," he said as he shook hands, "but I had no idea that Esme was thinking of consulting you about our trouble." "I was afraid you would not let me do it, Philip," said Miss Farquhar meekly. "So you took care to be on the safe side," he observed with a smile. "I hope Monsieur Poirot will be able to throw some light on this extraordinary puzzle, for I confess frankly that I am nearly out of my mind with worry and anxiety about it." Indeed, his face looked drawn and haggard and showed only too clearly the strain under which he was labouring. "Well, well," said Poirot, "let us lunch, and over lunch we will put our heads together and see what can be done. I want to hear Mr. Ridgway's story from his own lips." Whilst we discussed the excellent steak and kidney pudding of the establishment, Philip Ridgway narrated the circumstances leading to the disappearance of the bonds. His story agreed with that of Miss Farquhar in every particular. When he had finished, Poirot took up the thread with a question. "What exactly led you to discover that the bonds had been stolen, Mr. Ridgway?" He laughed rather bitterly. "The thing stared me in the face, Monsieur Poirot. I couldn't have missed it. My cabin trunk was half out from under the bunk and all scratched and cut about where they tried to force the lock. But I understood that it had been opened with a key." "That's so. They tried to force it but couldn't, and in the end they must have got it unlocked somehow or other." "Curious," said Poirot, his eyes beginning to flicker with the green light I knew so well. "Very curious. They waste much time trying to prise it open, and then, sapristi, they find that they have the key all the time, for each of Hobbs' locks are unique. That's just why they couldn't have had the key. It never left me day or night." "You are sure of that?" "I can swear to it. And besides, if they had had the key or a duplicate, why should they waste time trying to force an obviously unforceable lock?" "Ah, there is exactly the question we are asking ourselves. I venture to prophesy that the solution, if we ever find it, will hinge on that curious fact. I beg of you not to assault me if I ask you one more question. Are you perfectly certain that you did not leave the trunk unlocked?" Philip Ridgway merely looked at him, and Poirot gesticulated apologetically. But these things can happen, I assure you. Very well, the bonds were stolen from the trunk. What did the thief do with them? How did he manage to get ashore with them?" "Ah," cried Ridgway, "that's just it. How? Word was passed to the customs authorities, and every soul that left the ship was gone over with a tooth-comb." "And the bonds, I gather, made a bulky package?" "Certainly they did. They could hardly have been hidden on board, and anyway we knew they weren't because they were offered for sale within half an hour of the Olympia's arrival, long before I got the cables going and the numbers sent out. One broker swears he bought some of them even before the Olympia got in." "But you can't send bonds by wireless?" "Not by wireless, but did any tug come alongside?" "Only the official ones, and that was after the alarm was given when everyone was on the lookout. I was watching out myself for their being passed over to someone that way. My God, Monsieur Poirot, this thing will drive me mad. People are beginning to say I stole them myself." "But you also were searched on landing, weren't you?" asked Poirot gently. "Yes." The young man stared at him in a puzzled manner. "You do not catch my meaning, I see," said Poirot, smiling enigmatically. "Now I should like to make a few inquiries at the bank." Ridgway produced a card and scribbled a few words on it. "Send this in and my uncle will see you at once." Poirot thanked him, bade farewell to Miss Farquhar, and together we started out for Threadneedle Street and the head office of the London and Scottish Bank. On production of Ridgway's card, we were led through the labyrinth of counters and desks, skirting paying-in clerks and paying-out clerks, and up to a small office on the first floor, where the joint general managers received us. They were two grave gentlemen who had grown grey in the service of the bank. Mr. Vavasour had a short white beard. Mr. Shaw was clean-shaven. "I understand you are strictly a private inquiry agent," said Mr. Vavasour. Quite so, quite so. We have, of course, placed ourselves in the hands of Scotland Yard. Inspector McNeil has charge of the case. A very able officer, I believe. I am sure of it, said Poirot politely. You will permit a few questions on your nephew's behalf. About this lock. Who ordered it from Ubbs? I ordered it myself, said Mr. Shaw. I would not trust to any clerk in the matter. As to the keys, Mr. Ridgway had one, and the other two are held by my colleague and myself. And no clerk has had access to them? Mr. Shaw turned inquiringly to Mr. Vavasour. I think I am correct in saying that they have remained in the safe where we placed them on the 23rd, said Mr. Vavasour. My colleague was unfortunately taken ill a fortnight ago. In fact, on the very day that Philip left us, he has only just recovered. Severe bronchitis is no joke to a man of my age, said Mr. Shaw ruefully, but I am afraid Mr. Vavasour has suffered from the hard work entailed by my absence, especially from this unexpected worry coming on top of everything. Poirot asked a few more questions. I judged that he was endeavouring to gauge the exact amount of intimacy between uncle and nephew. Mr. Vavasour's answers were brief and punctilious. His nephew was a trusted official of the bank and had no debts or money difficulties that he knew of. He had been entrusted with similar missions in the past. Finally, we were politely bowed out. I am disappointed, said Poirot as we emerged into the street. You hope to discover more? They are such stodgy old men. It is not their stodginess which disappoints me, mon ami. I do not expect to find in a bank manager a keen financier with an eagle glance, as your favourite works of fiction put it. No, I am disappointed in the case. It is too easy. Easy? Yes, do you not find it almost childishly simple? You know who stole the bonds? I do. But then we must. Why? Do not confuse and fluster yourself, Hastings. We are not going to do anything at present. But why? What are you waiting for? For the Olympia. She is due on a return trip from New York on Tuesday. But if you know who stole the bonds, why wait? He may escape. To a South Sea island where there is no extradition? No, mon ami, he would find life very uncongenial there. As to why I wait, eh bien, to the intelligence of Hercule Poirot, the case is perfectly clear, but for the benefit of others not so greatly gifted by the good God, the Inspector McNeil, for instance, it would be as well to make a few inquiries to establish the facts. One must have consideration for those less gifted than oneself. Good Lord, Poirot, do you know I give a considerable sum of money to see you make a thorough ass of yourself just for once. You're so confoundedly conceited. Do not enrage yourself, Hastings. In verite, I observe that there are times when you almost detest me. Alas, I suffer the penalties of greatness. The little man puffed out his chest and sighed so comically that I was forced to laugh. Tuesday saw us speeding to Liverpool in a first-class carriage of the L&NWR. Poirot had obstinately refused to enlighten me as to his suspicions, or certainties. He contented himself with expressing surprise that I, too, was not equally au fait with the situation. I disdained to argue and entrenched my curiosity behind a rampart of pretended indifference. Once arrived at the quay alongside which lay the big transatlantic liner, Poirot became brisk and alert. Our proceedings consisted in interviewing 4 successive stewards and inquiring after a friend of Poirot's who had crossed to New York on the 23rd, an elderly gentleman wearing glasses, a great invalid who hardly moved out of his cabin. The description appeared to tally with one Mr. Ventnor, who had occupied the cabin C-24, which was next to that of Philip Ridgway. Although unable to see how Poirot had deduced Mr. Ventnor's existence and personal appearance, I was keenly excited. "Tell me," I cried, "was this gentleman one of the first to land when you got to New York?" The steward shook his head. "No, indeed, sir. He was one of the last off the boat." I retired crestfallen and observed Poirot grinning at me. He thanked the steward, a note changed hands, and we took our departure. "It's all very well," I remarked heatedly, "but that last answer must have damped your precious theory. Grin as you please." As usual, you see nothing, Hastings. That last answer is, on the contrary, the coping stone of my theory. I flung up my hands in despair. I give up. When we were in the train, speeding towards London, Poirot wrote busily for a few minutes, sealing up the result in an envelope. This is for the good Inspector MacNeil. We will leave it at Scotland Yard in passing, and then to the Rendezvous restaurant, where I have asked Miss Esme Farquhar to do us the honour of dining with us. What about Ridgway? What about him? Asked Poirot with a twinkle. Why, you surely don't think. You can't. The habit of incoherence is growing upon you, Hastings. As a matter of fact, I did think. If Ridgway had been the thief, which was perfectly possible, the case would have been charming, a piece of neat methodical work. But not so charming for Miss Farquhar. Possibly you are right, therefore all is for the best. Now, Hastings, let us review the case. I can see that you are dying to do so. The sealed package is removed from the trunk and vanishes, as Miss Farquhar puts it, into thin air. We will dismiss the thin air theory, which is not practicable at the present stage of science, and consider what is likely to have become of it. Everyone asserts the incredibility of its being smuggled ashore. Yes, but we know. You may know, Hastings. I do not. I take the view that, since it seems incredible, it was incredible. Two possibilities remain. It was hidden on board, also rather difficult, or it was thrown overboard. With a cork on it, do you mean? Without a cork? I stared. But if the bonds were thrown overboard, they couldn't have been sold in New York. I admired your logical mind, Hastings. The bonds were sold in New York. Therefore, they were not thrown overboard. You see where that leads us? Where we were when we started. Jamais de la vie. If the package was thrown overboard and the bonds were sold in New York, the package could not have contained the bonds. Is there any evidence that the package did contain the bonds? Remember, Mr. Ridgway never opened it from the time it was placed in his hands in London. Yes, but then... Poirot waved an impatient hand. Permit me to continue. The last moment that the bonds are seen as bonds is in the office of the London and Scottish Bank on the morning of the 23rd. They reappear in New York half an hour after the Olympia gets in, and according to one man whom nobody listens to, actually before she gets in. Supposing then that they have never been on the Olympia at all. Is there any other way they could get to New York? Yes. The Gigantique leaves Southampton on the same day as the Olympia, and she holds the record for the Atlantic. Mailed by the Gigantique, the bonds would be in New York the day before the Olympia arrived. All is clear, the case begins to explain itself. The sealed pack is only a dummy, and the moment of its substitution must be in the office in the bank. It would be an easy matter for any of the three men present to have prepared a duplicate package, which could be substituted for the genuine one. Très bien. The bonds are mailed to a confederate in New York, with instructions to sell as soon as the Olympia is in. But someone must travel on the Olympia to engineer the supposed moment of the robbery. But why? Because if Ridgway merely opens the packet and finds it a dummy, suspicion flies at once to London. No, the man on board in the cabin next door does his work, pretends to force the lock in an obvious manner so as to draw immediate attention to the theft, really unlocks the trunk with a duplicate key, throws the package overboard, and waits until the last to leave the boat. Naturally, he wears glasses to conceal his eyes, and is an invalid since he does not want to run the risk of meeting Ridgway. He steps ashore in New York and returns by the first boat available. But who? Which was he? The man who had a duplicate key, the man who ordered the lock, the man who has not been severely ill with bronchitis at his home in the country. Enfin, that stodgy old man, Mr. Shore. There are criminals in high places sometimes, my friend. Ah, here we are. Mademoiselle, I have succeeded, you permit? And beaming, Poirot kissed the astonished girl lightly on either cheek. Adventure of the Egyptian Tomb. I have always considered that one of the most thrilling and dramatic of the many adventures I have shared with Poirot was that of our investigation into the strange series of deaths which followed upon the discovery and opening of the tomb of King Menher-Ra. Hard upon the discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun by Lord Carnarvon, Sir John Willard and Mr. Bleibner of New York, pursuing their excavations not far from Cairo, in the vicinity of the pyramids of Giza, came unexpectedly on a series of funeral chambers. The greatest interest was aroused by their discovery. The tomb appeared to be that of King Menher-Ra, one of those shadowy kings of the 8th dynasty, when the Old Kingdom was falling to decay. Little was known about this period, and the discoveries were fully reported in the newspapers. An event soon occurred which took a profound hold on the public mind. Sir John Willard died quite suddenly of heart failure. The more sensational newspapers immediately took the opportunity of reviving all the old superstitious stories connected with the ill luck of certain Egyptian treasures. The unlucky mummy at the British Museum, that hoary old chestnut, was dragged out with fresh zest, was quietly denied by the museum, but nevertheless enjoyed all its usual vogue. A fortnight later, Mr. Bleibner died of acute blood poisoning, and a few days afterwards a nephew of his shot himself in New York. The curse of Menher-Ra was the talk of the day, and the magic power of dead and gone Egypt was exalted to a fetish point. It was then that Poirot received a brief note from Lady Willard, widow of the dead archaeologist, asking him to go and see her at her house in Kensington Square. I accompanied him. "It is kind of you to have come so promptly, Monsieur Poirot." "I am at your service, Lady Willard. You wish to consult me?" "You are, I am aware, a detective, but it is not only as a detective that I wish to consult you. You are a man of original views, I know. You have imagination, experience of the world. Tell me, Monsieur Poirot, what are your views on the supernatural?" Poirot hesitated for a moment before he replied. He seemed to be considering. Finally, he said, "Let us not misunderstand each other, Lady Willard. It is not a general question that you are asking me there. It has a personal application, has it not? You are referring obliquely to the death of your late husband?" "That is so," she admitted. "You want me to investigate the circumstances of his death?" "I want you to ascertain for me exactly how much is newspaper chatter and how much may be said to be founded on fact." 3 deaths, Monsieur Poirot, each one explicable taken by itself, but taken together surely an almost unbelievable coincidence, and all within a month of the opening of the tomb. It may be mere superstition. It may be some potent curse from the past that operates in ways undreamed of by modern science. The fact remains. 3 deaths, and I am afraid, Monsieur Poirot, horribly afraid. It may not yet be the end. For whom do you fear? For my son. When the news of my husband's death came, I was ill. My son, who has just come down from Oxford, went out there. He brought the body home, but now he has gone out again, in spite of my prayers and entreaties. He is so fascinated by the work that he intends to take his father's place and carry on the system of excavations. You may think me a foolish, credulous woman, but, Monsieur Poirot, I am afraid. Supposing that the spirit of the dead king is not yet appeased, perhaps to you I seem to be talking nonsense." "No, indeed, Lady Willard," said Poirot quickly. "I too believe in the force of superstition, one of the greatest forces the world has ever known." I looked at him in surprise. I should never have credited Poirot with being superstitious, but the little man was obviously in earnest. "What you really demand is that I shall protect your son? I will do my utmost to keep him from harm." "Yes, in the ordinary way, but against an occult influence?" "In volumes of the Middle Ages, Lady Willard, you will find many ways of counteracting black magic. Perhaps they knew more than we moderns with all our boasted science. Now, let us come to facts, that I may have guidance. Your husband always had been a devoted Egyptologist, hadn't he?" "Yes, from his youth upwards. He was one of the greatest living authorities upon the subject. But Mr. Bleibner, I understand, was more or less of an amateur." Oh, quite. He was a very wealthy man who dabbled freely in any subject that happened to take his fancy. My husband managed to interest him in Egyptology, and it was his money that was so useful in financing the expedition. And the nephew? What do you know of his tastes? Was he with the party at all? I do not think so. In fact, I never knew of his existence till I read of his death in the paper. I do not think he and Mr. Bleibner can have been at all intimate. He never spoke of having any relations. Who are the other members of the party? Well, there is Dr. Toswell, a minor official connected with the British Museum, Mr. Schneider of the Metropolitan Museum in New York, a young American secretary, Dr. Ames, who accompanies the expedition in his professional capacity, and Hassan, my husband's devoted native servant. Do you remember the name of the American secretary? Harper, I think, but I cannot be sure. He had not been with Mr. Bleibner very long, I know. He was a very pleasant young fellow. Thank you, Lady Willard. If there is anything else? For the moment, nothing. Leave it now in my hands and be assured that I will do all that is humanly possible to protect your son. These were not exactly reassuring words, and I observed Lady Willard wince as he uttered them. Yet, at the same time, the fact that he had not pooh-poohed her fears seemed in itself to be a relief to her. For my part, I had never before suspected that Poirot had so deep a vein of superstition in his nature. I tackled him on the subject as we went homewards. His manner was grave and earnest. But yes, Hastings, I believe in these things. You must not underrate the force of superstition. What are we going to do about it? Toujours pratique, le good Hastings. Eh bien, to begin with, we are going to cable to New York for fuller details of young Mr. Bleibner's death. He duly sent off his cable. The reply was full and precise. Young Rupert Bleibner had been in low water for several years. He had been a beachcomber and a remittance man in several South Sea islands, but had returned to New York 2 years ago, where he had rapidly sunk lower and lower. The most significant thing to my mind was that he had recently managed to borrow enough money to take him to Egypt. "I've a good friend there that I can borrow from," he had declared. Here, however, his plans had gone awry. He had returned to New York, cursing his skinflint of an uncle who cared more for the bones of dead and gone kings than his own flesh and blood. It was during his sojourn in Egypt that the death of Sir John Willard occurred. Rupert had plunged once more into his life of dissipation in New York, and then, without warning, he had committed suicide, leaving behind him a letter which contained some curious phrases. It seemed written in a sudden fit of remorse. He referred to himself as a leper and an outcast, and the letter ended by declaring that such as he were better dead. A shadowy theory leapt into my brain. I had never really believed in the vengeance of a long-dead Egyptian king. I saw here a more modern crime. Supposing this young man had decided to do away with his uncle, preferably by poison. By mistake, Sir John Willard receives the fatal dose. The young man returns to New York, haunted by his crime. The news of his uncle's death reaches him. He realizes how unnecessary his crime has been, and stricken with remorse, takes his own life. I outlined my solution to Poirot. He was interested. "It is ingenious what you have thought of there. Decidedly, it is ingenious. It may even be true, but you leave out of count the fatal influence of the tomb." I shrugged my shoulders. "You still think that has something to do with it?" "So much so, mon ami, that we start for Egypt tomorrow." "What?" I cried, astonished. "I have said it." An expression of conscious heroism spread over Poirot's face. Then he groaned. "But oh," he lamented, "the sea, the hateful sea." It was a week later. Beneath our feet was the golden sand of the desert. The hot sun poured down overhead. Poirot, the picture of misery, wilted by my side. The little man was not a good traveller. Our 4 days' voyage from Marseille had been one long agony to him. He had landed at Alexandria the wraith of his former self. Even his usual neatness had deserted him. We had arrived in Cairo and had driven out at once to the Manor House Hotel, right in the shadow of the pyramids. The charm of Egypt had laid hold of me. Not so Poirot. Dressed precisely the same as in London, he carried a small clothes brush in his pocket, and waged an unceasing war on the dust which accumulated on his dark apparel. "And my boots," he wailed. "Regard them, Hastings, my boots of the neat patterned leather, usually so smart and shining. See, the sand is inside them, which is painful, and outside them, which outrages the eyesight. Also the heat, it causes my moustaches to become limp. But limp! Look at the Sphinx," I urged. "Even I can feel the mystery and the charm it exhales." Poirot looked at it discontentedly. "It has not the air happy," he declared. "How could it have buried in sand in that untidy fashion? Ah, this cursed sand!" "Come now, there's a lot of sand in Belgium," I reminded him, mindful of a holiday spent at Noc-sur-Mer, in the midst of Les Dunes Impeccables, as the guidebook had phrased it. "Not in Brussels," declared Poirot. He gazed at the pyramids thoughtfully. "It is true that they at least are of a shape solid and geometrical, but their surface is of an unevenness most unpleasing. And the palm trees, I like them not even do they plant them in rows." I cut short his lamentations by suggesting that we should start for the camp. We were to ride there on camels, and the beasts were patiently kneeling, waiting for us to mount, in charge of several picturesque boys headed by a voluble dragoman. I pass over the spectacle of Poirot on a camel. He started by groans and lamentations and ended by shrieks, gesticulations, and invocations to the Virgin Mary and every saint in the calendar. In the end, he descended ignominiously and finished the journey on a diminutive donkey. I must admit that a trotting camel is no joke for the amateur. I was stiff for several days. At last we neared the scene of the excavations. A sunburnt man with a grey beard, in white clothes and wearing a helmet, came to meet us. "Monsieur Poirot and Captain Hastings, we received your cable. I'm sorry that there was no one to meet you in Cairo. An unforeseen event occurred which completely disorganized our plans." Poirot paled. His hand, which had stolen to his clothes-brush, stayed its course. "Not another death," he breathed. "Yes." "Sir Guy Willard?" I cried. "No, Captain Hastings, my American colleague, Mr. Schneider." "And the cause?" demanded Poirot. "Tetanus." I blanched. All around me I seemed to feel an atmosphere of evil, subtle and menacing. A horrible thought flashed across me. Suppose I were the next? "Mon Dieu," said Poirot in a very low voice. "I do not understand this. It is horrible. Tell me, monsieur, there is no doubt that it was tetanus?" "I believe not, but Dr. Ames will tell you more than I can do." "Ah, of course, you are not the doctor." "My name is Toswell." This, then, was the British expert described by Lady Willard as being a minor official at the British Museum. There was something at once grave and steadfast about him that took my fancy. "If you will come with me," continued Dr. Toswell, "I will take you to Sir Guy Willard. He was most anxious to be informed as soon as you should arrive." We were taken across the camp to a large tent. Dr. Toswell lifted up the flap and we entered. 3 men were sitting inside. "Monsieur Poirot and Captain Hastings have arrived, Sir Guy," said Toswell. The youngest of the 3 men jumped up and came forward to greet us. There was a certain impulsiveness in his manner which reminded me of his mother. He was not nearly so sunburnt as the others, and that fact, coupled with a certain haggardness round the eyes, made him look older than his 22 years. He was clearly endeavouring to bear up under a severe mental strain. He introduced his 2 companions, Dr. Ames, a capable-looking man of 30-odd, with a touch of greying hair at the temples, and Mr. Harper, the secretary, a pleasant, lean young man wearing the national insignia of horn-rimmed spectacles. After a few minutes' desultory conversation, the latter went out, and Dr. Toswell followed him. We were left alone with Sir Guy and Dr. Ames. "Please ask any questions you want to ask, Monsieur Poirot," said Willard. "We are utterly dumbfounded at this strange series of disasters, but it isn't. It can't be anything but coincidence." There was a nervousness about his manner which rather belied the words. I saw that Poirot was studying him keenly. "Your art is really in this work, Sir Guy." "Rather. No matter what happens or what comes of it, the work is going on. Make up your mind to that." Poirot wheeled round on the other. "What have you to say to that, Monsieur le Docteur?" Well, drawled the doctor, I'm not for quitting myself. Poirot made one of those expressive grimaces of his. Then, évidemment, we must find out just how we stand. When did Mr. Schneider's death take place? 3 days ago. You are sure it was tetanus? Dead sure. It couldn't have been a case of strychnine poisoning, for instance? No, Monsieur Poirot, I see what you're getting at, but it was a clear case of tetanus. Did you not inject antiserum? Certainly we did, said the doctor dryly. Every conceivable thing that could be done was tried. Had you the antiserum with you? No, we procured it from Cairo. Have there been any other cases of tetanus in the camp? No, not one. Are you certain that the death of Mr. Bleibner was not due to tetanus? Absolutely plumb certain. He had a scratch upon his thumb which became poisoned and septicemia set in. It sounds pretty much the same to a layman, I dare say, but the two things are entirely different. Then we have 4 deaths, all totally dissimilar. 1 heart failure, 1 blood poisoning, 1 suicide, and 1 tetanus. Exactly, Monsieur Poirot. Are you certain that there is nothing which might link the 4 together? I don't quite understand you. I will put it plainly. Was any act committed by those 4 men which might seem to denote disrespect to the spirit of men hurrah? The doctor gazed at Poirot in astonishment. You're talking through your hat, Monsieur Poirot. Surely you've not been guided into believing all that foolish talk. Absolute nonsense, muttered Willard angrily. Poirot remained placidly immovable, blinking a little out of his green cat's eyes. So you do not believe it, Monsieur le Docteur? No, I do not, declared the doctor emphatically. I am a scientific man, and I believe only what science teaches. Was there no science, then, in ancient Egypt? Asked Poirot softly. He did not wait for a reply, and indeed Dr. Ames seemed rather at a loss for the moment. No, do not answer me, but tell me this. What do the native workmen think? I guess, said Dr. Ames, that where white folk lose their heads, natives aren't going to be far behind. I'll admit that they're getting what you might call scared, but they've no cause to be. I wonder, said Poirot non-committally. Sir Guy leant forward. Surely, he cried incredulously, you cannot believe in. Oh, but the thing's absurd. You can know nothing of ancient Egypt if you know that. For answer, Poirot produced a little book from his pocket, an ancient, tattered volume. As he held it out, I saw its title, The Magic of the Egyptians and Chaldeans. Then, wheeling round, he strode out of the tent. The doctor stared at me. What is his little idea? The phrase, so familiar on Poirot's lips, made me smile as it came from another. I don't know exactly, I confessed. He's got some plan of exorcising the evil spirits, I believe. I went in search of Poirot and found him talking to the lean-faced young man who had been the late Mr. Bleibner's secretary. No, Mr. Harper was saying. I've only been 6 months with the expedition. Yes, I knew Mr. Bleibner's affairs pretty well. Can you recount to me anything concerning his nephew? No, Mr. Harper was saying. I've only been 6 months with the expedition. Yes, I knew Mr. Bleibner's affairs pretty well. Can you recount to me anything concerning his nephew? He turned up here one day, not a bad-looking fellow. I'd never met him before, but some of the others had. Ames, I think, and Schneider. The old man wasn't at all pleased to see him. They were at it in no time, hammer and tongs. Not a cent, the old man shouted. Not 1 cent now or when I'm dead. I intend to leave my money to the furtherance of my life's work. I've been talking it over with Mr. Schneider today, and a bit more of the same. Young Bleibner lit out for Cairo right away. Was he in perfectly good health at the time? The old man? No, the young one. I believe he did mention there was something wrong with him, but it couldn't have been anything serious or I should have remembered. One thing more, has Mr. Bleibner left a will? So far as we know, he has not. Are you remaining with the expedition, Mr. Harper? No, sir, I am not. I'm for New York as soon as I can square things up here. You may laugh if you like, but I'm not going to be this blasted old men-hurrah's next victim. He'll get me if I stop here. The young man wiped the perspiration from his brow. Poirot turned away. Over his shoulder he said with a peculiar smile, Remember, he got one of his victims in New York. Oh, hell, said Mr. Harper forcibly. That young man is nervous, said Poirot thoughtfully. He is on the edge, but absolutely on the edge. I glanced at Poirot curiously, but his enigmatical smile told me nothing. In company with Sir Guy Willard and Dr. Toswell, we were taken round the excavations. The principal finds had been removed to Cairo, but some of the tomb furniture was extremely interesting. The enthusiasm of the young baronet was obvious, but I fancied that I detected a shade of nervousness in his manner, as though he could not quite escape from the feeling of menace in the air. As we entered the tent which had been assigned to us, for a wash before joining the evening meal, a tall dark figure in white robes stood aside to let us pass with a graceful gesture and a murmured greeting in Arabic. Poirot stopped. "You are Hassan, the late John Willard's servant?" "I served my lord, Sir John, now I serve his son." He took a step nearer to us and lowered his voice. "You are a wise one, they say, learned in dealing with evil spirits. Let the young master depart from here. There is evil in the air around us." And with an abrupt gesture, not waiting for a reply, he strode away. "Evil in the air," muttered Poirot. "Yes, I feel it." Our meal was hardly a cheerful one. The floor was left to Dr. Toswell, who discoursed at length upon Egyptian antiquities. Just as we were preparing to retire to rest, Sir Guy caught Poirot by the arm and pointed. A shadowy figure was moving amidst the tents. It was no human one. I recognized distinctly the dog-headed figure I had seen carved on the walls of the tomb. My blood literally froze at the sight. "Mon Dieu!" murmured Poirot, crossing himself vigorously. "Anubis, the jackal-headed, the god of departing souls." "Someone is hoaxing us," cried Dr. Toswell, rising indignantly to his feet. "It went into your tent, Harper," muttered Sir Guy, his face dreadfully pale. "No," said Poirot, shaking his head, "into that of the Dr. Ames." The doctor stared at him incredulously, then, repeating Dr. Toswell's words, he cried, "Someone is hoaxing us. Come, we'll soon catch the fellow." He dashed energetically in pursuit of the shadowy apparition. I followed him, but search as we would, we could find no trace of any living soul having passed that way. We returned, somewhat disturbed in mind, to find Poirot taking energetic measures, in his own way, to ensure his personal safety. He was busily surrounding our tent with various diagrams and inscriptions which he was drawing in the sand. I recognized the five-pointed star or pentagon many times repeated. As was his wont, Poirot was at the same time delivering an impromptu lecture on witchcraft and magic in general, white magic as opposed to black, with various references to the Ka and the Book of the Dead thrown in. It appeared to excite the liveliest contempt in Dr. Toswell, who drew me aside, literally snorting with rage. "Balderdash, sir!" he exclaimed angrily. "Pure balderdash! The man's an impostor! He doesn't know the difference between the superstitions of the Middle Ages and the beliefs of ancient Egypt. Never have I heard such a hodgepodge of ignorance and credulity." I calmed the excited expert and joined Poirot in the tent. My little friend was beaming cheerfully. "We can now sleep in peace," he declared happily, "and I can do with some sleep. My head, it aches abominably. Ah, for a good tisane." As though in answer to prayer, the flap of the tent was lifted and Hassan appeared, bearing a steaming cup which he offered to Poirot. It proved to be chamomile tea, a beverage of which he is inordinately fond. Having thanked Hassan and refused his offer of another cup for myself, we were left alone once more. I stood at the door of the tent some time after undressing, looking out over the desert. "A wonderful place," I said aloud, "and a wonderful work. I can feel the fascination. This desert life, this probing into the heart of a vanished civilization. Surely, Poirot, you too must feel the charm." I got no answer, and I turned, a little annoyed. My annoyance was quickly changed to concern. Poirot was lying back across the rude couch, his face horribly convulsed. Beside him was the empty cup. I rushed to his side, then dashed out and across the camp to Dr. Ames's tent. "Dr. Ames," I cried, "come at once." "What's the matter?" said the doctor, appearing in pyjamas. "My friend, he's ill, dying. The chamomile tea. Don't let Hassan leave the camp." Like a flash, the doctor ran to our tent. Poirot was lying as I left him. "Extraordinary," cried Ames. "Looks like a seizure, or what did you say about something he drank?" He picked up the empty cup. "Only I did not drink it," said a placid voice. We turned in amazement. Poirot was sitting up on the bed. He was smiling. "No," he said gently, "I did not drink it. While my good friend Hastings was apostrophizing the night, I took the opportunity of pouring it not down my throat, but into a little bottle. That little bottle will go to the analytical chemist. No?" As the doctor made a sudden movement. "As a sensible man, you will understand that violence will be of no avail. During Hastings' brief absence to fetch you, I have had time to put the bottle in safekeeping. Ah, quick, Hastings, hold him." I misunderstood Poirot's anxiety. Eager to save my friend, I flung myself in front of him, but the doctor's swift movement had another meaning. His hand went to his mouth, a smell of bitter almonds filled the air, and he swayed forward and fell. "Another victim," said Poirot gravely, "but the last. Perhaps it is the best way. He has 3 deaths on his head." "Dr. Ames?" I cried, stupefied. "But I thought you believed in some occult influence." "You misunderstood me, Hastings. What I meant was that I believe in the terrific force of superstition. Once get it firmly established that a series of deaths are supernatural, and you might almost stab a man in broad daylight and it would still be put down to the curse. So strongly is the instinct of the supernatural implanted in the human race. I suspected from the first that a man was taking advantage of that instinct. The idea came to him, I imagine, with the death of Sir John Willard. A fury of superstition arose at once. As far as I could see, nobody could derive any particular profit from Sir John's death. Mr. Blabler was a different case. He was a man of great wealth. The information I received from New York contained several suggestive points. To begin with, young Blabner was reported to have said he had a good friend in Egypt from whom he could borrow. It was tacitly understood that he meant his uncle, but it seemed to me that in that case he would have said so outright. The words suggest some boon companion of his own. Another thing, he scraped up enough money to take him to Egypt. His uncle refused outright to advance him a penny, yet he was able to pay the return passage to New York. Someone must have lent him the money. All that was very thin, I objected. But there was more. Hastings, there occur often enough words spoken metaphorically which are taken literally. The opposite can happen too. In this case, words which were meant literally were taken metaphorically. Young Blabner wrote plainly enough, "I am a leper," but nobody realized that he shot himself because he believed that he had contracted the dread disease of leprosy. "What?" I ejaculated. "It was the clever invention of a diabolical mind. Young Blabner was suffering from some minor skin trouble. He had lived in the South Sea Islands where the disease is common enough. Ames was a former friend of his and a well-known medical man. He would never dream of doubting his word. When I arrived here, my suspicions were divided between Harper and Dr. Ames, but I soon realized that only the doctor could have perpetrated and concealed the crimes. And I learnt from Harper that he was previously acquainted with young Blabner. Doubtless the latter at some time or another had made a will or had insured his life in favor of the doctor. The latter saw his chance of acquiring wealth. It was easy for him to inoculate Mr. Blabner with the deadly germs. Then the nephew, overcome with despair at the dread news his friend had conveyed to him, shot himself. Mr. Blabner, whatever his intentions, had made no will. His fortune would pass to his nephew and from him to the doctor. And Mr. Schneider? We cannot be sure. He knew young Blabner too, remember, and may have suspected something, or again, the doctor may have thought that a further death motiveless and purposeless would strengthen the coils of superstition. Furthermore, I will tell you an interesting psychological fact, Hastings. A murderer has always a strong desire to repeat his successful crime. The performance of it grows upon him, hence my fears for young Willard. The figure of Anubis you saw tonight was Hassan dressed up by my orders. I wanted to see if I could frighten the doctor, but it would take more than the supernatural to frighten him. I could see that he was not entirely taken in by my pretenses of belief in the occult. The little comedy I played for him did not deceive him. I suspected that he would endeavor to make me the next victim. But in spite of la mer maudite, the heat abominable, and the annoyances of the sand, the little grey cells still functioned. Poirot proved to be perfectly right in his premises. Young Bleibner, some years ago, in a fit of drunken merriment, had made a jocular will, leaving my cigarette case you admire so much, and everything else of which I die possessed, which will be principally my debts, to my good friend Robert Ames, who once saved my life from drowning. The case was hushed up as far as possible, and to this day people talk of the remarkable series of deaths in connection with the tomb of Men-Her-Ra, as a triumphal proof of the vengeance of a bygone king upon the desecrators of his tomb. A belief which, as Poirot pointed out to me, is contrary to all Egyptian belief and thought.
The Western Star by Agatha Christie. Performed by Paul Lawley-Jones. I was standing at the window of Poirot's rooms, looking out idly on the street below. "That's queer," I ejaculated suddenly beneath my breath. "What is, mon ami?" asked Poirot placidly from the depths of his comfortable chair. "Deduce, Poirot, from the following facts. Here is a young lady, richly dressed, fashionable hat, magnificent furs. She is coming along slowly, looking up at the houses as she goes. Unknown to her, she is being shadowed by 3 men and a middle-aged woman. They have just been joined by an errand boy who points after the girl, gesticulating as he does so. What drama is this being played? Is the girl a crook, and are the shadowers detectives preparing to arrest her? Or are they the scoundrels, and are they plotting to attack an innocent victim? What does the great detective say?" "The great detective, mon ami, chooses, as ever, the simplest course. He rises to see for himself." And my friend joined me at the window. In a minute, he gave vent to an amused chuckle. "As usual, your facts are tinged with your incurable romanticism. That is Miss Mary Marvel, the film star. She is being followed by a bevy of admirers who have recognized her. And, en passant, my dear Hastings, she is quite aware of the fact." I laughed. "So all is explained. But you get no marks for that, Poirot. It was a mere matter of recognition." "En vérité? And how many times have you seen Mary Marvel on the screen, mon cher?" I thought. "About a dozen times, perhaps." "And I? Once. Yet I recognize her, and you do not." "She looks so different," I replied rather feebly. "Ah, sacré!" cried Poirot. "Is it that you expected to promenade yourself in the streets of London in a cowboy hat, or with bare feet and a bunch of curls, as an Irish colleen? Always with you it is the non-essentials. Remember the case of the dancer, Valerie St. Clair?" I shrugged my shoulders, slightly annoyed. "But console yourself, mon ami," said Poirot, calming down. "All cannot be as Hercule Poirot. I know it well." "You really have the best opinion of yourself of anyone I ever knew," I cried, divided between amusement and annoyance. "What will you? When one is unique, one knows it. And others share that opinion, even if I mistake not Miss Mary Marvel." "What?" "Without a doubt, she is coming here." "How do you make that out?" "Very simply. This street, it is not aristocratic, mon ami. In it there is no fashionable doctor, no fashionable dentist. Still less is there a fashionable milliner. But there is a fashionable detective. Oui, my friend, it is true, I am become the mode, the dernier cri. One says to another, "Comment? You have lost your gold pencil case? You must go to the little Belgian. He is too marvelous. Everyone goes. Courez." And they arrive, in flocks, mon ami, with problems of the most foolish. A bell rang below. What did I tell you? That is Miss Marvel. As usual, Poirot was right. After a short interval, the American film star was ushered in, and we rose to our feet. Mary Marvel was undoubtedly one of the most popular actresses on the screen. She had only lately arrived in England in company with her husband, Gregory B. Rolfe, also a film actor. Their marriage had taken place about a year ago in the States, and this was their first visit to England. They had been given a great reception. Everyone was prepared to go mad over Mary Marvel, her wonderful clothes, her furs, her jewels, above all, one jewel, the great diamond which had been nicknamed, to match its owner, the Western Star. Much, true and untrue, had been written about this famous stone, which was reported to be insured for the enormous sum of £50,000. All these details passed rapidly through my mind as I joined with Poirot in greeting our fair client. Miss Marvel was small and slender, very fair and girlish-looking, with the wide, innocent blue eyes of a child. Poirot drew forward a chair for her, and she commenced talking at once. "You will probably think me very foolish, Monsieur Poirot, but Lord Cronshaw was telling me last night how wonderfully you cleared up the mystery of his nephew's death, and I felt that I just must have your advice. I dare say it's only a silly hoax, Gregory says so, but it's just worrying me to death." She paused for breath. Poirot beamed encouragement. "Proceed, madame. You comprehend I am still in the dark." "It's these letters." Miss Marvel unclasped her handbag and drew out 3 envelopes which she handed to Poirot. The latter scrutinized them closely. "Cheap paper, the name and address carefully printed. Let us see the inside." He drew out the enclosure. I had joined him and was leaning over his shoulder. The writing consisted of a single sentence, carefully printed like the envelope. It ran as follows: "The great diamond which is the left eye of the god must return whence it came." The second letter was couched in precisely the same terms, but the third was more explicit. "You have been warned. You have not obeyed. Now the diamond will be taken from you. At the full moon, the 2 diamonds which are the left and right eye of the god shall return. So it is written." "The first letter I treated as a joke," explained Miss Marvel. "When I got the second, I began to wonder. The third one came yesterday, and it seemed to me that, after all, the matter might be more serious than I had imagined." "I see they did not come by post, these letters." "No. They were left by hand, by a Chinaman. That is what frightens me." "Why?" "Because it was from a chink in San Francisco that Gregory bought the stone 3 years ago." "I see, madame, that you believe the diamond referred to be—" "The Western Star," finished Miss Marvel. "That's so. At the time, Gregory remembers that there was some story attached to the stone, but the chink wasn't handing out any information. Gregory says he seemed just scared to death and in a mortal hurry to get rid of the thing. He only asked about 1/10 of its value. It was Greg's wedding present to me." Poirot nodded thoughtfully. The story seems of an almost unbelievable romanticism, and yet, who knows? I pray of you, Hastings, hand me my little almanac. I complied. Voyons, said Poirot, turning the leaves. When is the date of the full moon? Ah, Friday next. That is in 3 days' time. Eh bien, madame, you seek my advice, I give it to you. This belle histoire may be a hoax, but it may not. Therefore, I counsel you to place the diamond in my keeping until after Friday next. Then we can take what steps we please. A slight cloud passed over the actress's face, and she replied constrainedly, I'm afraid that's impossible. You have it with you, yeah? Poirot was watching her narrowly. The girl hesitated a moment, then slipped her hand into the bosom of her gown, drawing out a long, thin chain. She leaned forward, unclosing her hand. In the palm, a stone of white fire, exquisitely set in platinum, lay and winked at us solemnly. Poirot drew in his breath with a long hiss. Épatant, he murmured. You permit, madame? He took the jewel in his own hand and scrutinized it keenly, then restored it to her with a little bow. A magnificent stone without a flaw. Ah, son tonnerre, and you carry it about with you comme ça? No, I'm very careful really, Monsieur Poirot. As a rule, it's locked up in my jewel case and left in the hotel's safe deposit. We're staying at the Magnificent, you know. I just brought it along today for you to see. And you will leave it with me, n'est-ce pas? You will be advised by Papa Poirot? Well, you see, it's this way, Monsieur Poirot. On Friday, we're going down to Yardley Chase to spend a few days with Lord and Lady Yardley. Her words awoke a vague echo of remembrance in my mind. Some gossip. What was it now? A few years ago, Lord and Lady Yardley had paid a visit to the States. Rumour had it that his lordship had rather gone the pace out there with the assistance of some lady friends. But surely there was something more. Some gossip which coupled Lady Yardley's name with that of a movie star in California. Why, it came to me in a flash. Of course, it was none other than Gregory B. Rolfe. I'll let you into a little secret, Monsieur Poirot, Miss Marvel was continuing. We've got a deal on with Lord Yardley. There's some chance of our arranging to film a play down there in his ancestral pile. At Yardley Chase? I cried, interested. Why, it's one of the show places of England. Miss Marvel nodded. I guess it's the real old feudal stuff, all right. But he wants a pretty stiff price. And of course, I don't know yet whether the deal will go through, but Greg and I always like to combine business with pleasure. But I demand pardon if I am dense, madame. Surely it is possible to visit Yardley Chase without taking the diamond with you. A shrewd, hard look came into Miss Marvel's eyes, which belied their childlike appearance. She looked suddenly a good deal older. I want to wear it down there. Surely, I said suddenly, there are some very famous jewels in the Yardley collection, a large diamond amongst them. That's so, said Miss Marvel briefly. I heard Poirot murmur beneath his breath, Ah, c'est comme ça. Then he said aloud, with his usual uncanny luck of hitting the bull's-eye, he dignifies it by the name of psychology, Then you are without doubt already acquainted with Lady Yardley? Or perhaps your husband is? Gregory knew her when she was out west 3 years ago, said Miss Marvel. She hesitated a moment, and then added abruptly, Do either of you ever see society gossip? We both pleaded guilty, rather shamefacedly. I ask because in this week's number there is an article on famous jewels, and it's really very curious. She broke off. I rose, went to the table at the other side of the room, and returned with the paper in question in my hand. She took it from me, found the article, and began to read aloud. Amongst other famous stones may be included the Star of the East, a diamond in possession of the Yardley family. An ancestor of the present Lord Yardley brought it back with him from China, and a romantic story is said to attach to it. According to this, the stone was once the right eye of a temple god. Another diamond, exactly similar in form and size, formed the left eye, and the story goes that this jewel, too, would in course of time be stolen. One eye shall go west, the other east, till they shall meet once more. Then, in triumph, shall they return to the god. It is a curious coincidence that there is at the present time a stone corresponding closely in description with this stone, and known as the Star of the West, or the Western Star. It is the property of the celebrated film actress Miss Mary Marvel. A comparison of the two stones would be interesting. She stopped. "Épatant," murmured Poirot. "Without doubt, a romance of the first water." He turned to Mary Marvel. "And you are not afraid, madame? You have no superstitious terrors? You do not fear to introduce these two Siamese twins to each other, lest a Chinaman should appear and, hey presto, whisk them both back to China?" His tone was mocking, but I fancied that an undercurrent of seriousness lay beneath it. "I don't believe that Lady Yardley's diamond is anything like as good a stone as mine," said Miss Marvel. "Anyway, I'm going to see." What more Poirot would have said, I do not know, for at that moment the door flew open, and a splendid-looking man strode into the room. From his crisply curling black head to the tips of his patent leather boots, he was a hero fit for romance. "I said I'd call round for you, Mary," said Gregory Rolfe, "and here I am. Well, what does Monsieur Poirot say to our little problem? Just one big hoax, same as I do?" Poirot smiled up at the big actor. They made a ridiculous contrast. "Hoax or no hoax, Mr. Rolfe," he said dryly, "I have advised Madame your wife not to take the jewel with her to Yardley Chase on Friday." "I'm with you there, sir. I've already said so to Mary. But there, she's a woman through and through, and I guess she can't bear to think of another woman outshining her in the jewel line." "What nonsense, Gregory," said Mary Marvel sharply, but she flushed angrily. Poirot shrugged his shoulders. "Madame, I have advised. I can do no more. C'est fini." He bowed them both to the door. "Ah, la la," he observed, returning. "Histoire de femme. The good husband, he hit the nail on the head, to the mem. He was not tactful. Assuredly not." I imparted to him my vague remembrances, and he nodded vigorously. "So I thought. All the same, there is something curious underneath all this. With your permission, mon ami, I will take the air. Await my return, I beg of you. I shall not be long." I was half asleep in my chair when the landlady tapped on the door and put her head in. "It's another lady to see Mr. Poirot, sir. I've told her he was out, but she says as how she'll wait, seeing as she's come up from the country." "Oh, show her in here, Mrs. Hutchinson. Perhaps I can do something for her." In another moment, the lady had been ushered in. My heart gave a leap as I recognized her. Lady Yardley's portrait had figured too often in the society papers to allow her to remain unknown. "Do sit down, Lady Yardley," I said, drawing forward a chair. "My friend Poirot is out, but I know for a fact that he'll be back very shortly." She thanked me and sat down. A very different type this from Miss Mary Marvel. Tall, dark, with flashing eyes and a pale, proud face, yet something wistful in the curves of the mouth. I felt a desire to rise to the occasion. Why not? In Poirot's presence I have frequently felt a difficulty. I do not appear at my best. And yet there is no doubt that I, too, possess the deductive sense in a marked degree. I leaned forward on a sudden impulse. "Lady Yardley," I said, "I know why you have come here. You have received blackmailing letters about the diamond." There was no doubt as to my bolt having shot home. She stared at me open-mouthed, all colour banished from her cheeks. "You know?" she gasped. "How?" I smiled. "By a perfectly logical process. If Miss Marvel has had warning letters—" "Miss Marvel? She has been here?" "She has just left. As I was saying, if she, as the holder of one of the twin diamonds, has received a mysterious series of warnings, you, as the holder of the other stone, must necessarily have done the same. You see how simple it is? I am right, then. You have received these strange communications also?" For a moment she hesitated, as though in doubt whether to trust me or not. Then she bowed her head in assent with a little smile. "That is so," she acknowledged. "Were yours, too, left by hand, by a Chinaman?" "No, they came by post. But tell me, has Miss Marvel undergone the same experience, then?" I recounted to her the events of the morning. She listened attentively. "It all fits in. My letters are duplicates of hers. It is true that they came by post, but there is a curious perfume impregnating them, something in the nature of joss stick, that at once suggested the East to me. What does it all mean?" I shook my head. "That is what we must find out. You have the letters with you? We might learn something from the postmarks." "Unfortunately, I destroyed them. You understand, at the time, I regarded it as some foolish joke. Can it be true that some Chinese gang are really trying to recover the diamonds? It seems too incredible." We went over the facts again and again, but could get no further towards the elucidation of the mystery. At last, Lady Yardley rose. "I really don't think I need wait for Monsieur Poirot. You can tell him all this, can't you? Thank you so much, Mr.—" She hesitated, her hand outstretched. "Captain Hastings." "Of course. How stupid of me. You're a friend of the Cavendishes, aren't you? It was Mary Cavendish who sent me to Monsieur Poirot." When my friend returned, I enjoyed telling him the tale of what had occurred during his absence. He cross-questioned me rather sharply over the details of our conversation, and I could read between the lines that he was not best pleased to have been absent. I also fancied that the dear old fellow was just the least inclined to be jealous. It had become rather a pose with him to consistently belittle my abilities, and I think he was chagrined at finding no loophole for criticism. I was secretly rather pleased with myself, though I tried to conceal the fact for fear of irritating him. In spite of his idiosyncrasies, I was deeply attached to my quaint little friend. "Bien," he said at length, with a curious look on his face. "The plot develops. Pass me, I pray you, that peerage on the top shelf there." He turned the leaves. "Ah, here we are. Yardley, 10th Vicomte. Served South African War. Tout ça n'a pas d'importance. Married 1907, Honourable Maud Stopperton, 4th daughter of Sir Baron Cotterill. As issue, 2 daughters born 1908, 1910, clubs, residences. Voilà, that does not tell us much. But tomorrow morning we see this, my lord." "What?" "Yes, I telegraphed to him." "I thought you had washed your hands of the case." "I am not acting for Miss Marvel, since she refuses to be guided by my advice. What I do now is for my own satisfaction, the satisfaction of Hercule Poirot. Decidedly, I must have a finger in this pie." "And you calmly wired Lord Yardley to dash up to town just to suit your convenience. He won't be pleased." "Au contraire. If I preserve for him his family diamond, You ought to be very grateful." "Then you really think there is a chance of it being stolen?" I asked eagerly. "Almost a certainty," replied Poirot placidly. "Everything points that way." "But how?" Poirot stopped my eager questions with an airy gesture of the hand. "Not now, I pray you. Let us not confuse the mind, and observe that peerage, how you have replaced him. See you not that the tallest books go in the top shelf, the next tallest in the row beneath, and so on? Thus we have order, method, which, as I have often told you, Hastings—" "Exactly," I said hastily, and put the offending volume in its proper place. Lord Yardley turned out to be a cheery, loud-voiced sportsman with a rather red face, but with a good-humoured bonhomie about him that was distinctly attractive and made up for any lack of mentality. "Extraordinary business, this, Monsieur Poirot. Can't make head or tail of it. Seems my wife's been getting odd kind of letters, and that this Miss marvels at 'em too. What does it all mean?" Poirot handed him the copy of Society Gossip. "First, milord, I would ask you if these facts are substantially correct." The peer took it. His face darkened with anger as he read. "Damned nonsense," he spluttered. "There's never been any romantic story attached to the diamond. It came from India originally, I believe. I never heard of all this Chinese god stuff." "Still, the stone is known as the Star of the East." "Well, what if it is?" he demanded wrathfully. Poirot smiled a little, but made no direct reply. "What I would ask you to do, milord, is to place yourself in my hands. If you do so unreservedly, I have great hopes of averting the catastrophe." "Then you think there's actually something in these wildcat tales?" "Will you do as I ask you?" "Of course I will, but—" "Bien. Then permit that I ask you a few questions. This affair of Yardley Chase, is it, as you say, all fixed up between you and Mr. Rolfe?" "Oh, he told you about it, did he? No, there's nothing settled." He hesitated, the brick-red colour of his face deepening. "Might as well get the thing straight. I've made rather an ass of myself in many ways, Monsieur Poirot, and I'm head over ears in debt, but I want to pull up. I'm fond of the kids, and I want to straighten things up and be able to live on at the old place. Gregory Rolfe is offering me big money, enough to set me on my feet again. I don't want to do it. I hate the thought of all that crowd play-acting round the chase, but I may have to unless—" He broke off. Poirot eyed him keenly. "You have, then, another string to your bow? Permit that I make a guess. Is it to sell the Star of the East?" Lord Yardley nodded. "That's it. It's been in the family for some generations, but it's not entailed. Still, it's not the easiest thing in the world to find a purchaser. Hofburg, the Hatton Garden man, is on the lookout for a likely customer, but he'll have to find one soon, or it's a washout." "One more question. Permettez, Lady Yardley, which plan does she approve?" "Oh, she's bitterly opposed to my selling the jewel. You know what women are. She's all for this film stunt."
"I comprehend,"
said Poirot. He remained a moment or so in thought, then rose briskly to his feet.
"You return to Yardley Chase at once? Bien, say no word to anyone, mind, but expect us there this evening. We will arrive shortly after 5.
"All right, but I don't see—"
"Ça n'a pas d'importance,"
said Poirot kindly.
"You will that I preserve for you your diamond, n'est-ce pas?"
"Yes, but—"
"Then do as I say."
A sadly bewildered nobleman left the room. It was 5:30 when we arrived at Yardley Chase, and followed the dignified butler to the old panelled hall with its fire of blazing logs. A pretty picture met our eyes. Lady Yardley and her 2 children, the mother's proud dark head bent down over the 2 fair ones. Lord Yardley stood near, smiling down on them. "Monsieur Poirot and Captain Hastings," announced the butler. Lady Yardley looked up with a start. Her husband came forward uncertainly, his eyes seeking instruction from Poirot. The little man was equal to the occasion.
All my excuses. It is that I investigate still this affair of Miss Marvel's. She comes to you on Friday, does she not? I make a little tour first to make sure that all is secure. Also, I wanted to ask of Lady Yardley if she recollected at all the postmarks on the letters she received.
Lady Yardley shook her head regretfully.
I'm afraid that I don't. It is stupid of me, but you see, I never dreamt of taking them seriously.
"You'll stay the night?" said Lord Yardley.
Oh, my lord, I fear to incommode you. We have left our bags at the inn.
"That's all right." Lord Yardley had his cue. "We'll send down for them. No trouble, I assure you." Poirot permitted himself to be persuaded, and sitting down by Lady Yardley, began to make friends with the children. In a short time they were all romping together, and had dragged me into the game.
Vous êtes bonne mère,
said Poirot with a gallant little bow, as the children were removed reluctantly by a stern nurse. Lady Yardley smoothed her ruffled hair.
I adore them, she said, with a little catch in her voice. And they, you, with reason.
Poirot bowed again. A dressing gong sounded, and we rose to go up to our rooms. At that moment, the butler entered with a telegram on a salver which he handed to Lord Yardley. The latter tore it open with a brief word of apology. As he read it, he stiffened visibly. With an ejaculation, he handed it to his wife. Then he glanced at my friend. "Just a minute, Monsieur Poirot. I feel you ought to know about this. It's from Hofburg. He thinks he's found a customer for the diamond, an American, sailing for the States tomorrow. They're sending down a chap tonight to vet the stone. By Jove, though, if this goes through—" Words failed him. Lady Yardley had turned away. She still held the telegram in her hand.
"I wish you wouldn't sell it, George,"
she said in a low voice.
"It's been in the family for so long."
She waited, as though for a reply, but when none came, her face hardened. She shrugged her shoulders.
"I must go and dress. I suppose I had better display the goods."
She turned to Poirot with a slight grimace.
"It's one of the most hideous necklaces that was ever designed. George has always promised to have the stones reset for me, but it's never been done."
She left the room. Half an hour later, we three were assembled in the great drawing-room awaiting the lady. It was already a few minutes past the dinner hour. Suddenly, there was a low rustle, and Lady Yardley appeared, framed in the doorway, a radiant figure in a long white shimmering dress. Round the column of her neck was a rivulet of fire. She stood there with one hand just touching the necklace.
"Behold the sacrifice,"
she said gaily. Her ill humour seemed to have vanished.
"Wait while I turn the big light on, and you shall feast your eyes on the ugliest necklace in England."
The switches were just outside the door. As she stretched out her hand to them, the incredible thing happened. Suddenly, without any warning, every light was extinguished. The door banged, and from the other side of it came a long-drawn, piercing woman's scream. "My God!" cried Lord Yardley. "That was Maud's voice! What has happened?" We rushed blindly for the door, cannoning into each other in the darkness. It was some minutes before we could find it. What a sight met our eyes! Lady Yardley lay senseless on the marble floor, a crimson mark on her white throat where the necklace had been wrenched from her neck. As we bent over her, uncertain for the moment whether she were dead or alive, her eyelids opened.
"The Chinaman,"
she whispered painfully.
"The Chinaman, the side door."
Lord Yardley sprang up with an oath. I accompanied him, my heart beating wildly. The Chinaman again! The side door in question was a small one in the angle of the wall, not more than a dozen yards from the scene of the tragedy. As we reached it, I gave a cry. There, just short of the threshold, lay the glittering necklace, evidently dropped by the thief in the panic of his flight. I swooped joyously down on it. Then I uttered another cry which Lord Yardley echoed, for in the middle of the necklace was a great gap. The Star of the East was missing. "That settles it," I breathed. These were no ordinary thieves. This one stone was all they wanted. "But how did the fellow get in?" "Through this door." "But it's always locked." I shook my head. "It's not locked now. See?" I pulled it open as I spoke. As I did so, something fluttered to the ground. I picked it up. It was a piece of silk, and the embroidery was unmistakable. It had been torn from a Chinaman's robe. "In his haste, it caught in the door," I explained. "Come, hurry, he cannot have gone far as yet." But in vain we hunted and searched. In the pitch darkness of the night, the thief had found it easy to make his getaway. We returned reluctantly, and Lord Yardley sent off one of the footmen post-haste to fetch the police. Lady Yardley, aptly ministered to by Poirot, who is as good as a woman in these matters, was sufficiently recovered to be able to tell her story. "I was just going to turn on the other light," she said, "when a man sprang on me from behind. He tore my necklace from my neck with such force that I fell headlong to the floor. As I fell, I saw him disappearing through the side door. Then I realized by the pigtail and the embroidered robe that he was a Chinaman." She stopped with a shudder. The butler reappeared. He spoke in a low voice to Lord Yardley. "A gentleman from Mr. Hofburg's, my lord. He says you expect him." "Good heavens!" cried the distracted nobleman. "I must see him, I suppose. No, not here, Mullings, in the library." I drew Poirot aside. "Look here, my dear fellow, hadn't we better get back to London?" "You think so, Hastings? Why?" "Well," I coughed delicately, "things haven't gone very well, have they? I mean, you tell Lord Yardley to place himself in your hands, and all will be well, and then the diamond vanishes from under your very nose." "True," said Poirot, rather crestfallen. "It was not one of my most striking triumphs." This way of describing events almost caused me to smile, but I stuck to my guns. "So, having, pardon the expression, rather made a mess of things, don't you think it would be more graceful to leave immediately?" "And the dinner? The without doubt excellent dinner that the chef of Lord Yardley has prepared?" "Oh, what's dinner?" I said impatiently. Poirot held up his hands in horror. "Mon Dieu! It is that in this country you treat the affairs gastronomic with a criminal indifference." "There's another reason why we should get back to London as soon as possible," I continued. "What is that, my friend?" "The other diamond," I said, lowering my voice. "Miss Marvel's." "Eh bien? What of it?" "Don't you see?" His unusual obtuseness annoyed me. What had happened to his usually keen wits? "They've got one. Now they'll go for the other." "Tiens!" cried Poirot, stepping back a pace and regarding me with admiration. "But your brain marches to a marvel, my friend. Figure to yourself that for the moment I had not thought of that. But there is plenty of time. The full of the moon, it is not until Friday." I shook my head dubiously. The full of the moon theory left me entirely cold. I had my way with Poirot, however, and we departed immediately, leaving behind us a note of explanation and apology for Lord Yardley. My idea was to go at once to the Magnificent and relate to Miss Marvel what had occurred, but Poirot vetoed the plan and insisted that the morning would be time enough. I gave in rather grudgingly. In the morning, Poirot seemed strangely disinclined to stir out. I began to suspect that, having made a mistake to start with, he was singularly loath to proceed with the case. In answer to my persuasions, he pointed out, with admirable common sense, that as the details of the affair at Yardley Chase were already in the morning papers, the Rolfes would know quite as much as we could tell them. I gave way unwillingly. Events proved my forebodings to be justified. About 2 o'clock the telephone rang. Poirot answered it. He listened for some moments, then with a brief "Bien, j'y serai," he rang off and turned to me.
"What do you think, mon ami?"
He looked half ashamed, half excited.
"The diamond of Miss Marvel, it has been stolen."
"What?" I cried, springing up. "And what about the full of the moon now?" Poirot hung his head. "When did this happen?"
"This morning, I understand."
I shook my head sadly. "If only you had listened to me. You see, I was right."
"It appears so, mon ami," said Poirot cautiously. "Appearances are deceptive, they say, but it certainly appears so."
As we hurried in a taxi to the Magnificent, I puzzled out the true inwardness of the scheme. That full of the moon idea was clever. The whole point of it was to get us to concentrate on the Friday, and so be off our guard beforehand. It is a pity you did not realize that.
"Ma foi,"
said Poirot airily, his nonchalance quite restored after its brief eclipse.
"one cannot think of everything."
I felt sorry for him. He did so hate failure of any kind. "Cheer up," I said consolingly. "Better luck next time." At the Magnificent, we were ushered at once into the manager's office. Gregory Rolfe was there, with 2 men from Scotland Yard. A pale-faced clerk sat opposite them. Rolfe nodded to us as we entered. "We're getting to the bottom of it," he said. "But it's almost unbelievable. How the guy had the nerve, I can't think." A very few minutes sufficed to give us the facts. Mr. Rolfe had gone out of the hotel at 11:15. At 11:30, a gentleman, so like him in appearance as to pass muster, entered the hotel and demanded the jewel case from the safe deposit. He duly signed the receipt, remarking carelessly as he did so, "Looks a bit different from my ordinary one, but I hurt my hand getting out of the taxi." The clerk merely smiled and remarked that he saw very little difference. Rolfe laughed and said, "Well, don't run me in as a crook this time anyway. I've been getting threatening letters from a Chinaman, and the worst of it is, I look rather like a chink myself. It's something about the eyes."
"I looked at him,"
said the clerk who was telling us this,
"and I saw at once what he meant. The eyes slanted up at the corners like an Oriental's. I'd never noticed it before."
"Darn it all, man!" roared Gregory Rolfe, leaning forward. "Do you notice it now?" The man looked up at him and started.
"No, sir," he said. "I can't say I do."
And indeed, there was nothing even remotely Oriental about the frank brown eyes that looked into ours. The Scotland Yard man grunted.
"Bold customer. Thought the eyes might be noticed and took the bull by the horns to disarm suspicion. He must have watched you out of the hotel, sir, and nipped in as soon as you were well away."
"What about the jewel case?" I asked.
"It was found in a corridor of the hotel. Only one thing had been taken, the Western Star."
We stared at each other. The whole thing was so bizarre, so unreal. Poirot hopped briskly to his feet.
"I have not been of much use, I fear," he said regretfully. "Is it permitted to see Madame?"
"I guess she's prostrated with the shock," explained Rolfe.
"Then perhaps I might have a few words with you alone, monsieur."
"Certainly." In about 5 minutes, Poirot reappeared.
"Now, my friend," he said gaily, "to a post office. I have to send a telegram."
"Who to?"
"Lord Yardley."
He discounted further inquiries by slipping his arm through mine.
Come, come, mon ami. I know all that you feel about this miserable business. I have not distinguished myself. You, in my place, might have distinguished yourself. Bien, all is admitted. Let us forget it an avalanche.
It was about 4 o'clock when we entered Poirot's rooms. A figure rose from a chair by the window. It was Lord Yardley. He looked haggard and distraught. "I got your wire and came up at once. Look here, I've been round to Hofburg, and they know nothing about that man of theirs last night, or the wire either. Do you think that—" Poirot held up his hand.
My excuses. I sent that wire, and I the gentleman in question.
"You? But why? What?" The nobleman spluttered impotently.
My little idea was to bring things to a head,
explained Poirot placidly. "Bring things to a head? Oh, my God!" cried Lord Yardley.
And the ruse succeeded, said Poirot cheerfully. Therefore, milord, I have much pleasure in returning you this.
With a dramatic gesture, he produced a glittering object. It was a great diamond. "The Star of the East," gasped Lord Yardley. "But I don't understand."
"No?" said Poirot. "It makes no matter. Believe me, it was necessary for the diamond to be stolen. I promised you that it should be preserved to you, and I have kept my word. You must permit me to keep my little secret. Convey, I beg of you, the assurances of my deepest respect to Lady Yardley, and tell her how pleased I am to be able to restore a jewel to her. What beau temps, is it not? Good day, my lord."
And, smiling and talking, the amazing little man conducted the bewildered nobleman to the door. He returned, gently rubbing his hands. "Poirot," I said, "am I quite demented?"
"No, mon ami, but you are, as always, in a mental fog."
"How did you get the diamond?"
"From Mr. Rolfe."
"Rolfe?"
"Mais oui. The warning letters, the Chinaman, the article in Society Gossip, all sprang from the ingenious brain of Mr. Rolfe. The two diamonds, supposed to be so miraculously alike, bah! They did not exist. There was only one diamond, my friend. Originally in the Yardley collection, for 3 years it has been in the possession of Mr. Rolfe. He stole it this morning with the assistance of a touch of grease paint at the corner of each eye. Ah, I must see him on the film. He is indeed an artiste, celui-là."
"But why would he steal his own diamond?" I asked, puzzled.
"For many reasons. To begin with, Lady Yardley was getting restive."
"Lady Yardley?"
"You comprehend she was left much alone in California. Her husband was amusing himself elsewhere. Mr. Rolfe was handsome. He had an air about him of romance, but, au fond, he is very businesslike, ce monsieur. He made love to Lady Yardley, and then he blackmailed her. I taxed the lady with the truth the other night, and she admitted it. She swore that she had only been indiscreet, and I believe her. But undoubtedly Rolfe had letters of hers that could be twisted to bear a different interpretation. Terrified by the threat of a divorce, and the prospect of being separated from her children, she agreed to all he wished. She had no money of her own, and she was forced to permit him to substitute a paste replica for the real stone. The coincidence of the date of the appearance of the Western Star struck me at once. All goes well. Lord Yardley prepares to range himself, to settle down, and then comes the menace of the possible sale of the diamond. The substitution will be discovered. Without doubt, she writes off frantically to Gregory Rolfe, who has just arrived in England. He soothes her by promising to arrange all, and prepares for a double robbery. In this way, he will quiet the lady who might conceivably tell all to her husband, an affair which would not suit our blackmailer at all. He will have £50,000 insurance money. Aha, you had forgotten that. And he will still have the diamond. At this point, I've put my finger in the pie. The arrival of a diamond expert is announced. Lady Yardley, as I felt sure she would, immediately arranges a robbery, and does it very well, too. But Hercule Poirot, he sees nothing but facts. What happens in actuality? The lady switches off the light, bangs the door, throws the necklace down the passage, and screams. She has already wrenched out the diamond with pliers upstairs.
But we saw the necklace round her neck, I objected.
I demand pardon, my friend. Her hand concealed the part of it where the gap would have shown. To place a piece of silk in the door beforehand is child's play. Of course, as soon as Rolf read of the robbery, he arranged his own little comedy, and very well he played it.
What did you say to him? I asked with lively curiosity.
I said to him that Lady Yardley had told her husband all, that I was empowered to recover the jewel, and that if it were not immediately handed over, proceedings would be taken. Also, a few more little lies which occurred to me. He was as wax in my hands.
I pondered the matter. It seems a little unfair on Mary Marvel. She has lost her diamond through no fault of her own.
Bah,
said Poirot brutally.
She has a magnificent advertisement. That is all she cares for, that one. Now the other, she is different. Bonne mère, très femme.
Yes, I said doubtfully, hardly sharing Poirot's views on femininity. I suppose it was Rolf who sent her the duplicate letters.
Pas du tout,
said Poirot briskly.
She came by the advice of Mary Cavendish to seek my aid in her dilemma. Then she heard that Mary Marvel, whom she knew to be her enemy, had been here, and she changed her mind, jumping at a pretext that you, my friend, offered her. A very few questions sufficed to show me that you told her of the letters, not she, you. She jumped at the chance your words offered.
I don't believe it, I cried, stung.
Si, mon ami. It is a pity that you study not the psychology. She told you that the letters were destroyed. Oh la la, never does a woman destroy a letter if she can avoid it, not even if it would be more prudent to do so.
It's all very well, I said, my anger rising, but you've made a perfect fool of me from beginning to end. No, it's all very well to try and explain it away afterwards. There really is a limit.
But you were so enjoying yourself, my friend. I had not the art to shatter your illusions.
It's no good. You've gone a bit too far this time.
Mon Dieu. But how you enrage yourself for nothing, mon ami?
I'm fed up. I went out, banging the door. Poirot had made an absolute laughing-stock of me. I decided that he needed a sharp lesson. I would let some time elapse before I forgave him. He had encouraged me to make a perfect fool of myself. The Western Star by Agatha Christie. Performed by Paul Lawley-Jones.
Tonight, Agatha Christie's unique detective Hercule Poirot in the tragedy at Marsden Manor.
Come in. Yes, what is it? You Dr. Bernard? Yes, I am. I'm quick, the master's done for. You mean Mr. Maltravers of the Manor? Aye, the master. The mistress, she says, fetch the doctor, she says. But it bean't no use. He's a dead un. I knows a dead un when I see un. What was it, man? An accident? No, bean't no accident. I found him in the lower meadow, with the blood running out of his mouth. Be a stroke. A stroke? That's what it be. Well, hurry, man, let's go. Come now, Mrs. Maltravers. You must get hold of yourself. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. After all, we are all of us mortals.
But why, Richard? He was so good, so kind. Why did this have to happen to him?
Oh, come, please.
He seemed so well, so full of life. Why, only last week he passed a medical examination for insurance. How could he have died so suddenly? Darcy, what happened?
A hemorrhage due to stomach ulcers, undoubtedly, resulting in a stroke.
Bonjour, Monsieur Hyde.
Hello, Poirot.
You know my good friend Captain Hastings, no?
Good morning, Captain Hastings.
Hi, sir.
Well, Poirot, you got my message, I see.
I did. What is it that disturbs you, mon ami? Richard Maltravers dies? You sent for Poirot. What was the cause of Monsieur Maltravers' death?
The death certificate says a hemorrhage resulting in a stroke due to stomach ulcers.
But surely you did not bring Papa Poirot here to talk of the stomach ulcers. If Richard Maltravers had taken out the insurance policy in your company, no?
And what a policy! For £50,000.
Well, a good square sum, that, huh?
Rather.
So, what is it you wish me to do? It is unfortunate for your company, but everything seems, how you say, open and above the plank, no?
No, Poirot. Open and above board.
Ah, my good friend, the great Hastings. Always he corrects the English of Hercule Poirot. Monsieur Wright, I ask you, do I not speak the English of a super?
You do indeed. But to get back to your previous question, what my company wishes you to do is to investigate the circumstances of Mr. Maltravers' death.
Oh, what is it you suspect, mon ami?
Well, of course, you know in the case of suicide, the policy is invalid.
Yes.
And when a man past the prime of life takes out an unusually large policy in favor of a young wife half his age and then dies within 2 weeks, the possibility of suicide cannot be ignored.
Oh, with certainty, mon ami. But suicide by hemorrhage? That is a queer saucepan of fish. Now, if the cause of death had been heart failure, then I would smell a mouse. Heart failure can always mean that a stupid doctor did not find the true cause. But hemorrhage, ma foi, hemorrhage is, well, hemorrhage.
Exactly. Nevertheless, we are determined to proceed with the matter. You will undertake the inquiry?
But of course. Hastings, that great professor of English, shall go with me. Eh, mon ami?
Gladly, Poirot.
Eh bien. Now, where is this place, this Marsden Manor?
You take the Great Eastern Line from Liverpool Station to the little town of Marsden Lee. Marsden Manor is about a mile from the village.
Marsden Lee. All right, Hastings, we go.
Ah, well, so this is Marsden Lee, eh? I hope we can get a conveyance up to the manor.
Tickets, sir.
Here you are, my friend.
I suppose you'll be coming down for the funeral, sir?
Funeral? What funeral?
You say you've made a funeral of Master Maltravers, about the manor.
Oh, you say the manor? Could that be Marsden Manor?
Aye, it be.
That is an odd coincidence. My friend and I, we have come down with a thought of buying this Marsden Manor.
You couldn't pay me to live there, you couldn't.
Why not?
It be haunted.
Haunted?
Aye, haunted. Seen things there, folks says.
Yeah, we should see. Now, could you tell us where a Dr. Bernard lives?
Aye, up yon hill, about half a mile.
Well, come, Hastings. I understand, Dr. Bernard, that you signed the death certificate of a Mr. Richard Maltravers.
Yes, I did.
You understand, Doctor, with such a big policy, we must make the careful investigation.
Of course. I suppose he was such a rich man, his life was insured for a big sum,
You consider him a rich man, Doctor?
Well, was he not? He kept 2 cars, you know, and Marsden Manor is a pretty big place to keep up. Although I believe he bought it very cheaply.
I understand he had considerable losses of late.
That's so, indeed. It's fortunate for his widow, then, that there is this insurance.
Yes.
Very beautiful and charming young creature, but terribly unstrung by this sad catastrophe. I've tried to spare her all I could, but of course the shock has been very great.
Why shock? These ulcers of the stomach, they are what you call chronic,
Yes.
They are not sudden.
No.
Did you not attend Mr. Maltravers before, Doctor?
My dear sir, I never attended him.
What?
I understand Mr. Maltravers was a member of a faith-healing sect.
But you examined the body?
Certainly. I was fetched by one of the under gardeners.
And the cause of death was clear?
Absolutely. There was blood on the lips, but most of the bleeding must have been internal.
He had not been moved.
No, the body hadn't been touched. He had evidently been out shooting crows, and the long-barreled bird gun lay beside him. The hemorrhage must have occurred quite suddenly. Gastric ulcers, without a doubt.
He could not have been shot, huh?
My dear sir,
I beg pardon, but I remember once a doctor who said heart failure until the constable showed him a bullet wound through the head.
You will find no bullet wounds on the body or head of Mr. Maltravers. Now, gentlemen, if there's nothing further...
I thank you, doctor. Just one more thing. You saw no need for the autopsy, huh?
Certainly not. The cause of death was perfectly clear. In my profession, we see no need to distress unduly the relatives of a dead patient. Now, gentlemen, if you'll pardon me, good day.
Well, Hastings, what do you think of our good Dr. Bernard?
Bit of an old fool.
Precisely. Your judgments of character are always profound, mon ami, except where a young and beautiful woman is concerned. So now you must mind your Q's and P's, because the good doctor has said that the next one we see is both young and beautiful. This Madame Maltravers. Madame Maltravers, I cannot tell you how I am sorry to bother you in this way.
Must I be bothered now? I know nothing about this insurance of my husband.
Courage, madame, it is necessary. I will do all to make this matter not too unpleasant for you. I, Hercule Poirot, swear it. Now, if you would recount briefly the sad events of last Wednesday, huh?
Well, I was changing for tea when the maid came up. One of the gardeners had just run up to the house. He'd found Richard.
No, I comprehend. Enough. You had seen your husband earlier in the afternoon?
No, not since lunch. I've walked down to the village for some stamps. I believe he was out pottering around the grounds.
Shooting the crows, no?
Yes, so I understand. He usually took his bird gun with him. In fact, I heard one or two shots at a distance.
So? Where is this bird gun now?
In the gun cabinet over there, I suppose.
With your permission, madame? Bien, here it is. Ah, 2 shots fired, I see. And now, madame, a delicate question. Monsieur Maltravers, your husband, is awaiting burial, I believe?
Yes. He's lying in his room.
If I might see?
Why, yes, of course. It's the first room at the top of the stairs. You'll forgive me if I don't go with you.
What, of course. Hastings, you remain here with madame.
Do you think Mr. Poirot will understand why I didn't go with him?
I can assure you, Mrs. Maltravers, Poirot is most sympathetic.
I don't doubt it, Mr. Hastings. I only wish there was more that I could tell him.
I understand. And I wonder, Mrs. Maltravers, if you could tell me one thing.
Oh, yes?
Well, the station master, an odd character named Volk, said something about Marsden Manor being haunted.
Marsden Manor haunted? What? Surely you're joking, Mr. Hastings.
Oh, no, I assure you. He told us that people have seen things.
We must have been referring to my humble experiments in extrasensory perception. I've always been tremendously intrigued by that subject, and doubtless some of our servants have been gossiping.
Madame, you are mediumistic. How fascinating.
Oh, I wouldn't go so far as to say that, Mr. Poirot. I've dabbled a bit, that's all.
So?
I've managed table levitation and simple things like that. But I suppose to the simple rustics around here it looks like black magic.
Very interesting. Under kinder circumstances, I would implore a demonstration.
Why, are you interested in such things, Mr. Poirot?
All fields of knowledge interest the great Poirot.
Poirot, don't you think perhaps we'd better...
Oh, I forgot, madame. I thank you for your so great courtesy. I do not think you need be bothered any further by the matter. By the way, do you know anything of your husband's financial position?
Nothing whatever, I'm afraid. I'm very stupid about business.
I see. Then you can give us no clue as to why your husband suddenly decided to insure his life.
Oh, was it sudden? I'm sure I don't know.
Enfin. And now, with your permission, madame, we will go. Hastings?
Oh, I'll see you to the door.
Merci. Oh, just one more thing, madame. Could you tell me, when they found Mr. Maltravers, did they find him unshod, without the shoes?
Why, really, Mr. Poirot, I don't understand.
It is nothing. It does not matter. And now, madame, adieu. Oh, but look, you have another visitor. Someone is coming up to walk, huh?
Archie!
Hello,
You!
Emily.
Why, I thought you were on your way back to Australia.
Yes, I was, but I read the news of Uncle's death in Paris and hurried back. Emily, my dear, is there anything I can do for you? Anything?
Oh, of course not. What could you do? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. Mr. Poirot, this is Captain Black, my husband's nephew. Captain Black, Mr. Hastings.
How down? Emily, how did this happen? Uncle seemed perfectly well when I was here Monday night.
You've evidently read the papers, Archie. You must know what happened.
But they gave no details, just the bare notice of his death. What happened?
Archie, I just can't go through all that again.
Yes, Captain Black, I'm afraid my friend and I, we have disturbed madame.
What are you doing here?
I am Hercule Poirot, the Hercule Poirot.
Mr. Poirot is from the insurance company, Archie.
That's just why I've come back. To protect you from annoyances like this.
You shouldn't have risked your job, Archie. If you left right away, you might still get to Paris in time to make your boat train.
You say Paris, mon capitaine. You go to Australia by way of Paris?
Why, yes. I intended taking the Orient Express from there and pick up the Pacific Mail at Port Said.
Ah, oui. That shortens the journey, does it not? You are staying here, Captain Black?
Yes, I'm staying at the Pig and Thistle. That's the inn down in the village.
Ah, village inn. It serves the roast beef, no?
Why, yes, I suppose so.
Good. So, Hastings, let us try this roast beef at the Pig and Thistle, huh?
All right, Poirot. Now you've had your roast beef. Hadn't we better be getting back to London?
No, not so fast, my good Hastings. London, she will not run away. But this Captain Black, he may do so. A garçon!
For
Garçon!
heaven's sake, Poirot. English inns don't have garçon.
No? Then who is it who approaches?
What do you have, Governor?
For my friend, the dictionary. For me, a bock.
He means beer, George.
I mean the ale.
Right-o, Governor. You've been up at the Manor, sir?
I mean, yes, we have.
Sad business, that. I knew no good had come of it as soon as they took the Manor.
You mean this, Maltravers? They were not popular?
Well, not that, Governor. He was a bit too old for her, if you know what I mean.
Awesome.
She might better have married the nephew. Leastways, I'll better Bob than if you thought.
Ah, there has been the gossip, huh?
Well, I wouldn't go so far as that, Governor. But he did hang around a bit.
And the husband, Mr. Maltravers? He object?
Not as I knows of, Governor. But I is my opinion, I is.
Without a doubt, it is the worst opinion, no, George? But the Captain Black, here he comes now.
Hello, Poirot, here you are.
Captain Black, come, will you not join us? Bock, perhaps?
Yes, thanks. I don't mind if I do. Waiter, a mug of ale.
Hello, Governor.
Sad business, this death of your uncle, huh?
Yes, and so sudden, too. He seemed in excellent health when I dined with him Monday night.
So, and was he also in good spirits? What did he say? Or what was the talk at this dinner Monday night?
Oh, I don't know, the usual general topics.
I see.
My uncle asked about my people. We talked of Australia.
Yes.
Then Mrs. Maltravers asked a lot of questions about East Africa, where I've spent some time. I told them one or two yarns. That's about all, I think.
Madame Maltravers seems much upset at the death of her husband, no?
Naturally. They'd been married less than a year.
So I hear. A remarkable woman, this lady.
Remarkable in what way? What do you mean?
She has, how you say, the seeing eye. I hear her tell Hastings she does the seance. He seems most interested, no, Hastings?
Oh, I wouldn't go so far as that.
Always the conservative Hastings. Me, I am not so.
Well, Mr. Poirot, don't tell me you believe in this psychic stuff.
Oh, I have not the closed mind. For example, Captain Black, you have told us all that your conscious self knows. Now, with your permission, I would question your subconscious, huh?
Psychoanalysis, eh? Well, it's nonsense, but I don't mind.
Merci. It is like this. I give you a word. You answer with another word. Any word, the first word you think of. Eh bien, shall we begin?
Go ahead.
Hastings, note
Yes.
down the words, please.
Very well, Poirot.
Now, day,
Night.
name,
Place.
Bernard. Sure. Monday. Dinner. Journey. Ship. Country. Uganda. Story. Lions. Bird gun. Farm. Shot. Suicide. Elephant. Tusks. Money. Lawyers. So, that is all. You are a good subject, mon capitaine.
You don't mean to tell me that rigmarole means anything to you?
Maybe not, but nevertheless you are a good subject.
Well, if you don't need me anymore, I think I'll go upstairs and unpack. Shall I see you again before you leave, Mr. Poirot?
Yes, I should not be surprised.
Good. See you later.
Au revoir, mon capitaine. And now, my clever Hastings, you see it all, no?
Oh, I don't know what you mean, Poirot.
Does that list of words tell you nothing?
Sorry, I'm afraid it doesn't.
Then I will assist you. To begin with, the captain answered within the time limit. No pauses, no making up the mind.
Yeah?
Day to night and place to name are normal associations. Then I give him Bernard, the name of the doctor, if he knew him.
Oh.
Evidently he does not. When I say Bernard, he says sure. Monday means dinner, country is Uganda. Story recalls the lion story he tells them. All natural. But now, notice. When I mention bird gun, I get the unexpected answer, farm. When I say shot, he answers at once, suicide. A man he knows commits suicide with a bird gun on a farm somewhere. Imbecile that I am! The great Hercule Poirot is hoodwinked.
What are you talking about?
Do not see Hastings? That is the story the Captain Black told at the dinner Monday night.
Oh, I see. And you think that gave Maltravers the idea? You think he shot himself in the mouth with that bird gun?
Why not? Remember, the bird gun has a very tiny charge of powder. The bullet would remain lodged in the brain. All that would show would be the blood in the mouth. Come, Hastings. It is not too late.
So, but where?
To see once more this dead man, to Marsden Manor. Hastings, to Marsden Manor. Alas, Mrs. Maltravers, it is true. Your husband shot himself through the mouth with the bird gun.
You mean suicide?
It would seem so, madame.
But the insurance...
Naturally, madame, this suicide will void the policy. It is unfortunate, but what will you?
Oh, but this is impossible. My husband would never commit suicide. It's inconceivable.
But the evidence, madame, it is conclusive.
No, there must be some other explanation.
You mean murder, madame? Well, of course, that is always possible. But no, not likely, I'm afraid.
But you do admit it's possible. You just said it was possible.
Yes, of course, everything is possible. Have you any idea who might have wished to kill your husband?
Why, no. No, I haven't.
Madame, I have a suggestion. It is bizarre, no doubt, but perhaps if you are willing to help.
Oh, yes, of course, anything.
Madame, you are mediumistic. Perhaps if you would try,
Perhaps you're right. Perhaps I could get through to Richard. He might tell us what happened.
I am sure you could do it, madame.
Yes, I'll do it. Come back here tonight at 8 and bring Captain Black with you.
Bien, madame. I am sure you will succeed. Until 8, madame. Au revoir.
Hello? You were the article agency? Oh, we do well. This is Hercule Poirot. Dear mon ami. Henri, I have a part for you. For one appearance only. Oui, as always. Now listen closely. This is what I wish you to do. Dr. Bernard, this is Hercule Poirot. Tell me, doctor, when you saw Mr. Maltravers after the stroke, did he have on the shoes? He did? Yeah, merci. Hello, Scotland Yard. Inspector Japp, please. Hello, Japp. This is Poirot. Quite well, thank you. Inspector, I think I have a murderer for you. No, there is no time to explain. Be at Marsden Manor, Marsden Lee, at 8 o'clock tonight. Wait outside the window. And do not come in until I call, eh? Good, remember. Marsden Manor, at 8.
Alors, Madame Travers, we are on time, as you see. Hastings and I have brought Captain Black with us.
I say the bad storm coming up, would that interfere with the experiment?
Certainly not, Mr. Hastings. This isn't mumbo-jumbo. The weather has nothing to do with it.
Well, let us proceed, huh?
Yes. Now, will you draw chairs up around this table, please? Now, Mr. Hastings, if you'll put out the lights.
Certainly.
Now, remain perfectly quiet, please, no matter what you hear or see. Richard. Can you hear me, Richard? Can you hear me? If you can, rap. Rap 3 times. Did you hear that?
Ah, but of course, Madame. Did you not tell him to rap 3 times?
That's how Richard always used to knock.
Perhaps he is outside.
No.
They say the suicide never rests, always returns.
Listen. What was that?
The front door slammed.
What? No, Captain Black. It was but the thunder.
Listen. Poirot, I hear footsteps.
Just the wind, Madame. I will close the door. Ah, I have locked it.
Don't do that. If it should open now.
By Jove, it is open.
He's there. There in the doorway.
I see nothing, Madame.
I saw him, I tell you. My husband, you must have seen him too.
Look. She's right. He is there. His hand. Look, it's pointing. What's that light coming from? Pointing at her.
What did you... Her hand. Her right hand. It is scarlet with blood.
Blood! Yes, it's blood. I killed him.
Light!
Good heavens, Poirot, she's got away through that window.
Do not worry, mon capitaine. The good Inspector Japp outside will stop her.
Good heavens, that lovely creature a murderer.
And a very clever one, my susceptible Hastings. After all, she could not know she would come up against the great Hercule Poirot. And she might even have fooled me, if she had only taken off his shoe.
His shoe, Poirot?
Only with his toe could he himself have pulled the trigger of this bird gun. And parbleu, his shoes were still on when they found him.
But I don't understand. This séance, was it all fake?
Certainement. She meant to pull the sheep. Wool. Very well, wool. But it was I who pulled the sheep's wool over her eyes. Thanks to my good friend Henri Dubois, who played the part of the husband ghost, and Papa Poirot, who put the red paint on her hand in the dark.
But what was her idea in having this séance?
Parbleu, mon capitaine, do you not see? Madame, she will go into the trance. She will hear the voice. She will come out from the trance. She will, with a great reluctance, name the murderer.
You mean she meant to confess?
Mais non, mon capitaine. She meant to name you.
You have been listening to Murder Clinic. Original music was composed by Ralph Barnhart and conducted by Bob Stanley. This program was an international exchange feature over the coast-to-coast network of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Tales told on Murder Clinic are adaptations by authors Lee Wright and John A. Bassett. Murder Clinic is produced under the direction of Alvin Flanagan. Frank Knight speaking.